Yes, you're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV, and we continue with our news review with Deputy Governor for Nairobi, Jonathan Mweke, Brian Mweke, the CEO of IED, and Yusuf Hassan, Member of Parliament for Kamukunji. And we now need to talk about politics. And as I said before, it's been difficult to get headlines with Jubilee, but there's one. Jubilee storms Kalonzo backyard. That's a strip on top of the Standard, and the story is on page 9 of the Standard. Let's look at that first before we look at what CORD has been doing. And 8 members of Parliament have asked Kalonzo to forget CORD ticket in 2017. The legislator said the Wiper leader will be shortchanged by Raila Odinga in the race to be the opposition flag bearer. The 8 MPs were speaking in Machakos yesterday at an event attended by the Deputy President. Now, while this was happening, Kalonzo was in Mombasa, and there was a rally at Tononoka grounds in Mombasa, and we'll be looking at the pronouncements there. But before we get to that, this kind of talk in Kalonzo Musyoka's backyard, you are a member of the Wiper Party.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think it's inconsequential. First of all, that headline is misleading, that Jubilee storms Kalonzo's backyard. We've reached a point in this country where anybody can go anywhere to look for votes. I think what is important is you need to find out who are these Kamba MPs and what do they stand for. First of all, they're not Wiper members. 2, the ones who are Wiper members, I think just 2 of them have defected to Jubilee, which means they don't even have the moral authority to speak on behalf of their constituents, leave alone the party, because they were elected on Wiper. The constituents said we want Wiper. They've left Wiper. The moral thing for them to do is to resign so that we can get leadership that looks at the welfare of the people that elected them. So if you're not a member of Wiper, you're not a member of CORD, or you have since left to Jubilee, why are you worried about what we are doing in CORD? Yeah, or why are you worried about Kalonzo being a president or a or a deputy president or going at it alone? It should be none of your business. You need to be focusing on what you have decided to do, which is go to a party that has no followers, has no footing, has no ambition in Ukambani.
Yeah, but perhaps they could be speaking to this discord, or rather this talk of disunity within the Grand Coalition Party, because the Grand CORD Coalition, because yesterday in at Tononoka there were many pronouncements, and one of them was this one where the Secretary General Hassan Omar of your party said Wiper has other options other than CORD, yeah, and Wiper is ready to work with any other coalition members because apparently ODM has threatened them. But before we get to that, let's take a look at this story that we have on this on Citizen TV today. And the Wiper Democratic Movement is threatening to ditch the CORD coalition should anyone else but party leader Kalonzo Musyoka be named the coalition's presidential flag bearer. Of course, there's a debate on who should be the flag bearer, but now Wiper is threatening to ditch CORD if Kalonzo is not named the presidential candidate, and they said this while speaking at the Tononoka grounds in Mombasa yesterday. Let's have that story.
Tunatafuta njia ya kufika State House in the fastest and most convenient and most practical way forward. Na sisi ndo tunaamini kwamba uongozi wa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is the most expeditious and sure way to State House.
Hata jana kule Kisumu tunasikia wengine wanasema ODM inaweza kwenda peke yake, na sisi tunataka kutoa onyo kwa ODM kwamba huu muungano wa CORD tuliutafuta kwa shida, na tunataka uimarishe, na tunataka kuendelea na umoja.
Na ikiwa safari imefika, ikiwa kusema kweli wakati umefika Kalonzo asonge mbele, basi tusiwe na hofu, tusiwe na hofu.
Yes, those are just some of the pronouncements at the Wiper rally at Tononoka grounds in Mombasa yesterday. But looking at the headlines this morning, and it's basically the same thing. Name flag bearer. Musyoka says he wants to be in government after next year's general election. Yes. Raila's new front, that's something different. But on the Standard, Raila told, be the kingmaker. Both Wetangula and Kalonzo Musyoka are telling Raila, hey, step back, let one of us do it. And it's this kind of discord, if we would start with the Bwana Yusuf Hassan. I'm sure this is something that, even if you're not on the headlines, this is the kind of headline you would want to see from the opposition.
Well, I would say that there is extreme discord in the opposition. And it is very, very clear when you have a senior leader like David Musila, who is a well-respected leader, casting doubts about the intentions of the partner party, the ODM party. Then it is very clear that there is something seriously wrong with the opposition. All is not well. And I would say that in what we are seeing in this campaign that you think might be positive is that you don't see a united opposition. You don't see articulation of policies and ideas that will challenge the dominant ruling party. The Kenyan public are not being offered an alternative. They've just been offered personalities that do not agree with each other. We are not seeing a consensus leader. So the opposition is tearing itself apart in the public domain. The headlines are negative. It is one against the other. They're not challenging Jubilee policies. They're not challenging the Jubilee leadership. They are talking about who among themselves should be the representative, the flag bearer. And to a certain extent, the Kenyan public is seeing a divided opposition, and they're confusing even their own supporters, leave alone getting outside it. Now, if you look at the real issue here, the real issue is here there's only going to be one bull in the boma. And at this particular moment, I do not see any space for either our former Vice President, Kalonzo Musyoka, in the CORD discord. I don't see space for Wetangula in that CORD discord. And therefore, what we are going to see are three players going it alone. And I think that might be very healthy for our Kenyan democracy competition, but it certainly isn't going to win them the contest for State House. But let me also say something, is that once in the next few weeks they decide, it will be, I think the decision would be to go it alone. ODM would go it alone, and then what happens to Wiper and New Ford Kenya. And I think here I see an opportunity for Jubilee to have more partners, and we would welcome many of those disaffected, short-changed members of CORD discord to our Jubilee alliance. After that
commercial, and after that commercial break by Jubilee, let's go to Weke. And of course, we've been told that this separate rallies for each party. Of course, we've been seeing what ODM has been doing around the country, and Wiper started the same yesterday, where Moses Wetangula with his Ford Kenya was in Narok. And we were told that the main intention of these separate rallies and separate events was to popularize each party separately, because they said that stronger parties mean a stronger coalition. But it's quickly turning into something else, because now they're being turned into forums to ask Raila Odinga to step down. Remember, we've been told that the CORD coalition or secretariat will come up with a way of selecting its flag bearer. But before we even get to that, everyone is saying, okay, step back, when Raila step down, allow us. Don't you see like that is already a problem, just in terms of picking the flag bearer? Because they seemed to have agreed that yes, we'll have a process at some point. But even before that, they're saying no, he just needs to step down.
I think first, key things, I've said this before, and I will say it again.
the fact that CORD is dominating the headlines is a good thing, because politics majorly is about perception. It is about mind share. It is about ensuring that the brand keeps on playing within the Kenyan or your target group minds. Now, first for me, and you can see if you read all 3 newspapers, it is Raila told to be kingmaker, named flag bearer by December, Raila's new war front on Uhuru. So basically, that publicity is very important. And the politicians will tell you that any publicity is good publicity. So the fact that now you're seeing Raila leading a team of ODM, and now you're seeing Kalonzo leading a team of Wiper, and they're actually going out to campaign, and you're seeing Wetangula. I was quite impressed. I saw he had quite substantial people in Maasai Land. Is a very good thing for CORD, because again, you look like you're not waiting for one person to go and speak to the people. Now, the reason why you're seeing nothing is happening in Jubilee is because everybody is waiting for the president and the deputy president, because they say they are ready, wamejipanga. So every leader is waiting for the deputy president and president to lead campaigns.
Yes.
And yet you can see they're actually incumbents. They're quite busy in terms of their jobs as we speak. So for me, this is a good thing for CORD. However, they need to look like they have a plan.
Yes.
Because what is happening to the public it's a good thing that we are discussing different coalition partners being in different areas, and they're jostling for the seat. But I think the words that are now starting to come out are becoming too strong, because now if you go straight ahead and say we can go it alone, then now again that does not build. If you go and say that Kalonzo has been told to either toe the line or leave,
those kind of statements.
Those kind of statements are very dangerous. If you hear Wetangula saying that Raila should leave, again, it ceases to be a competitive process.
Yes, and speaking of Wetangula, we have a bite of what he exactly said in Narok, and if we could just play that now.
Tunamwambia we mzee sasa, umefanya kazi, una heshima yako, you will have a special place in the CORD government. Tunamwambia we mzee sasa, umefanya kazi, una heshima yako, you will have a special place in the CORD government.
We're still with Bonaweke, and that kind of statement, over and over, step back, step down, step down. It's now what they're repeating. Wiper and Ford Kenya, they keep saying the same thing: step down, step down, step down.
You see, again, that's quite dangerous, because depending on how you sell it, what if they come up with a nomination process and Raila becomes the presidential candidate?
Yes.
Yet you've been able to dent his image as you proceed. So it is a good thing for different parties to go around the country to build their support base. But again, they need to check what they are saying. Because if you start mentioning negative attributes towards Kalonzo, then Kalonzo becomes the flag bearer. Then how, and doing that would be, again, an uphill task.
Yes.
So, CORD, it is a good thing that they are moving to different parts of different political parties. But for me, if they want to look like they are organized, if they want to look like they have a plan, they need to measure what they're telling their supporters.
Yes, Deputy Governor, of course, it complicates the matter in Nairobi, especially with this discussion within CORD on whether or not to have joint nominations or for each party to go separate ways. And of course, your party Secretary General Hassan Omar has come out strongly and said that Wiper Party will field a candidate in each and every available elective position. That complicates matters for your government, because you're already in a coalition. You're already in a coalition ticket for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. And I read somewhere, in the news that you actually and the governor Kidero visited the Wiper leader at his home to discuss this matter, especially when it comes to Nairobi. And your proposal is that you have joint nominations in Nairobi for CORD. How does that work for you? Because your party is against that.
Yeah, first of all, our party is not against that, and Secretary General did not entirely say that we are going to have candidates in every electoral area. But before we
have him on record saying that Wiper Party, apart from the presidential candidate, will field a candidate for each and every available elected position.
We have him on record saying except Nairobi and in any other areas where we think we should go as a coalition. And that's what he said, because I was there at the NEC briefing when we made that pronouncement. But anyway, first of all, let's talk about CORD as a coalition. What we're seeing, Fred, is something very exciting in Kenyan politics. You're seeing a coalition that's very passionate, that's so vibrant, because the goal is just one. We need to save Kenyans from this misrule of Jubilee. Now, democracy is really at work here, and that's why we are the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, where we are saying you have 3 presidential candidates, all first amongst equals, all with the capability and experience to take this country to greater heights and serve the people of this nation, going around the country, each corner of the country, telling the people why is it that we are the best to run this country. To me, that's democracy at its best. The more, the merrier. It just shows that we have options in CORD, and it shows that everybody is selling themselves on how good they are to be able to lead this country. There is no discord in CORD, and you've seen Raila Odinga say it, you've seen Kalonzo Musyoka say it, and you've seen Ford Kenya leader Wetangula say it, that we are together. We're just strengthening our parties as we are getting ready to go to battle. Now, the opposition is not foolish. We all understand that no one party can go it alone and win. And we're in this business to win and take over leadership so that we can bring Kenya to where it's supposed to be. Right now, it's quite sadly low. Our opponents in Jubilee might be sitting pretty, as Mheshimiwa Yusuf is saying, because they think that we are disorganized. But why there are no vibrancy in Jubilee is because Jubilee's script has been set for 2032. So in Jubilee, young leaders like Murkomen who have a lot of future have to wait until they're 60 or 70 years to become president. There's no that ambition. So Jubilee is going to be dead until 2032 once Ruto has gone. Then now you can begin to see that vibrancy that is not there in CORD. So we are not breaking up as a coalition. The governor of Nairobi and myself, why we are so active in ensuring that the coalition stays together. And you saw we went to see Wiper leader at his house. Give me a second, Mheshimiwa. At his house, to tell him, listen, you have to remember the mistakes that we made in 2013. In Nairobi alone, we lost 22 NCA seats and we lost 6 parliamentary seats because we were not united. And I'll give you a good example. We went divided, we lost Mathare to TNA. Yeah. When there was a by-election, we went united. We won Mathare, ODM through CORD, and we all went together. So Nairobi felt it seriously. Brian Weke here himself is a victim. One of the seats we lost is because we were divided. So we've learned our mistakes, and we are very clever. And since Nairobi felt it most, the governor and myself decided we're going to take leadership. We've seen Kalonzo Musyoka. We're going to go and have another private meeting with Raila Odinga. We're going to have a private meeting with CORD principal Wetangula. So as Nairobi, we can set the agenda and say, listen, united, we are stronger. When you're going to battle, you go with allies. When you're going to war, you have to make sure that you're together. So anybody thinking that our leaders going around showing themselves and selling themselves as the best to lead this country, that we are united, that we are disunited, or this discord in CORD, are fooling themselves, and they'll be up to some very serious, rude shock.
Yes. Fred, I think we should have a reality check here. When the leader of the opposition goes to Narok, and he does not go there to promote the ideals, the policies, and the way forward for the opposition. What he does is to attack his own presidential candidate. And he says, step down, you're not worthy of being our flag bearer. You go to Mombasa, another of the discord leaders, Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka, saying, I need to be the flag bearer. Raila Odinga is not worthy of being our flag bearer and becoming the leader of this country. You go to Raila Odinga's rallies in Kisumu, and they say, Raila Odinga is the rightful candidate to be our flag bearer, and we will go it alone. We are in a position about to name our running mate as the ODMK presidential candidate. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about a serious fallout. We're talking of an opposition that is entirely focused on tearing itself to pieces, attacking its leadership. And I can't see how that is going to help. Brian was saying that I hope they have a plan. There's obviously not a plan here. There's a free fall, and the Kenyan people are watching it live on television every day. So I can clearly see that it would not work here in Nairobi as well. Why, if I was an ODM candidate, why would I go with a deputy whose political party is about to get out and run it on its own?
Are you scared? Are you scared of a joint possibility of a CORD having joint nominations for their candidates in Nairobi? For example, if CORD, if Wiper for Kenya and ODM were to have one single CORD candidate for Kamukunji, don't you think that would be something to be afraid of?
No, it wouldn't make any difference in Kamukunji. It might make a difference in other constituencies where there is a balance of there is a balance of power. It wouldn't make much difference in my constituency, but in Nairobi, obviously a divided opposition would go very quickly.
But they are talking about having joint nominations.
But I don't see the possibility of that, to be honest. I don't see the possibility.
I think first, because I grew up initially from Kamukunji, and I understand the terrain, I think Mheshimiwa Yusuf Hassan needs to be very worried if CORD presented a candidate, a joint candidate, and a Somali joint candidate at that. Then I've actually
they did that in the last election.
No. I can tell you what happened in the last general elections. Wiper had a candidate. I can tell you for a fact, if they present a strong Somali candidate, then Mheshimiwa will have sleepless nights, because if you look at that vote, if you just get somebody who can get half the Somali vote from Yusuf Hassan, that would be a big problem. But let me say this, what I'm actually seeing that would even threaten CORD coalition is individual interests within the coalition. For instance, if you hear the Secretary General speaking about fielding candidates in virtually all parts of the country, it is about his personal interests.
Yes.
He wants to run for governor, and I can tell you, when they go for a CORD nomination, he stands no chance. You've seen where Joho is politically, and you are hearing him being touted now as a principal within the CORD coalition. I actually wanted to see what Wiper would do in Tononoka grounds, because again, the reason why you saw they quickly took Kalonzo to Tononoka is because of what Joho had done when ODM at 10 years, and you saw that was a show of might. So for me, I thought Bolo, as well as the Secretary General, would do something so mighty so as to counter. It's about local politics, what Joho did in Mombasa. And I'm quite disappointed, because you saw there was no energy, there was no razzmatazz. So again, this individual interest within the CORD coalition is what is threatening. I can tell you for a fact, even a madman on the street will tell you, if CORD was to present joint candidates, they stand a chance. You know, and I'm wondering whether these guys have a plan. Raila Odinga won 45 constituencies in the last general election. He got outright majority. People came out and voted for Raila Odinga Kalonzo tickets, but subsequently lost the members of parliament. Jubilee only lost 4. So that in itself is extremely worrying. The question is, let's even say CORD wins the presidency. If you're not organized so that you have members of parliament to run the country, it's very difficult. Yes. So any madman on the street will tell you that for CORD to win, and to win big, they have to run joint nominations. There are no two ways about it. And more so, in cosmopolitan areas.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And in a short while, before I give you an opportunity, I need to tell viewers that the State House is this morning hosting a youth summit. Of course, they've been hosting a series of summits. We had the one for transport, another one for health, and today they'll be hosting the State House Summit on health, and we'll be going to that live broadcast very soon. Yes, it's the Youth Summit. Sorry, thank you for that correction. They're hosting the State House Youth Summit at State House Nairobi, and in a short while we'll be broadcasting that event live. But now, as we wrap up our discussion, and whatever Bwana Weke is saying, of course, has some truth to it, because even the proposal to have joint nominations, the very first person to come out publicly and say it was your party leader. He's the first person to say that CORD, we will go out and have joint nominations. But during your NEC, when you addressed a press conference immediately after, Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka was very quiet, because he was told off during the NEC that we are not going that way. And we saw Hassan Omar, who's a Secretary General and is a very powerful official, a party official, saying that, making those pronouncements that he made. And Bwana Weke is saying, yes, there's a lot of personal interest that comes into the making of these decisions. Of course, the situation in Mombasa is very different, and we do understand. But don't you think that probably the interests of this party secretary general in Mombasa could affect the entire coalition and even the situation in Nairobi?
No, I don't think so, because in CORD, and especially in WIPA, we are very consultative, and we work with consensus as a party. So you can't have one person's wishes give direction to the entire party. That's why we have National Executive Committee meetings where we sit down and we decide the direction of the party. Now, there's many ways to skin a cat. Yeah, we could do joint nominations. We could zone and say where you're popular, field ODM, where you're popular, field WIPA. We could have what you call negotiated democracy and do some mapping and say these seats will be reserved for these communities or these parties, and so on and so forth. So there's many ways on how we are going to do it. I think why Jubilee is so anxious for us to do it quickly, and that's why we keep being told, put your house in order, put your house in order, is because they are very eager to find out what our strategy is as a coalition, so that they can begin to attack that strategy. But as long as we are not revealing our strategy, it's keeping Jubilee quiet and guessing. That's why they can't make any headlines. Now, let me just correct Brian. We were in Mombasa on Saturday, did a road show, started in Changamwe, went to Njomvu, went to Mvita, went to Kisauni, and Nyali, right? We activated WIPA in Mombasa completely. Now, WIPA has a senator in Mombasa and 2 members of parliament in Mombasa. Then Tononoka is saying you didn't see vibrancy. It's in the front pages of all the election, of all the newspapers. Just look and see what we were able to pull at Tononoka yesterday. Now, that should be very, very worrying for Jubilee, because remember, we're not doing this to respond to Joho or to ODM. Those are our partners, those are our allies. We are not in competition with ODM or Ford Kenya, right? What we have done now in Mombasa is ODM went and activated ODM like we've never seen before at the ODM at 10. Then WIPA went with the entire leadership of WIPA. And this weekend, Kalonzo in Mombasa was trending in Twitter the whole weekend. So we've activated WIPA completely. Now WIPA and ODM combined in Mombasa, which decides what else Coast is going to do, Jubilee has no chance.
Okay. Gentlemen, because of the Youth Summit, we need to wrap up this session, and so I'll give you a chance to actually give us direction in terms of the news agenda for this week. Of course, we're talking about the politics of CORD this week. What would you like to see in the headlines this week as we go along? Hopefully some more of Jubilee. I think definitely we'd like to see the IEBC issue moving forward, and then the settlement of the remuneration of the IEBC commissioners, so that they can start moving their exit, and then we move on to select the new commissioners. That is what I'm looking forward to as the beginning of this week, and towards the end of this week hopefully we'll have some good news on that. The second one, of course, is the President has submitted the name of the Chief Justice to Parliament. That's another issue that we'll be dealing with, filling an important position in our political setup, the judiciary, the head of the judiciary. So those are the 2 key issues that I see
will be focused on this week. Okay. Of course, in the issue of Jubilee, we're happy to see the discord continuing. The Deputy Governor says that they have activated Wiper in Mombasa. So it means that there will be an all-out war between Wiper and ODM for positions in Mombasa. They will be busy with each other, not with us. The same, I think, if that happens in Mombasa, that would be replicated here in Nairobi. So wanavyosema Waswahili ni kwamba sisi tunaangalia tu wakiraruana tukisubiri kuchukua hatua yetu ya pili.
Is that a new saying? Because
ni mambo ya nyama.
I expected something similar. Brian Weke, in terms of the headlines this week,
I think today is 3rd, so tomorrow is actually effectively 4th.
Yes.
And tomorrow is actually the commencement date of the new law as regards elections. So what we would want to see is that by end of the week we want commissioners to have resigned to pave way for recruitment of new commissioners. And I think as a country that is something we ought to ensure that happens this week, because again past this week we will be moving now on very, very dangerous lines. The other thing, of course, is the position of Deputy CJ as well as the CJ.
Yes.
I think those for me are the two key issues that I would want to see in our news, creating headlines.
Of course, the interviews for Deputy CJ continue this morning. Finally, Bwana Mweke.
Yeah, this week we have the Nairobi International Trade Fair, commonly known as the Nairobi Show. You know, our government here in Nairobi is very business friendly, so we are looking forward to seeing all the youth bring their wares, their innovations to display their stuff at the show. So we've even given, as Nairobi County, the youth more than 100 slots, and the Juakali people, just to ignite the innovation that Nairobi comes with. So we are looking forward to the show this week. Very excited that tomorrow is the 4th, so finally IEBC must go comes to reality. We are happy as a CORD coalition to have nurtured that process to ensure that we have a free and fair election that's also credible. Then judiciary might have a new boss. So we're waiting to see what Mheshimiwa Yusuf and his colleagues in Parliament are going to do with the name that the President forwarded yesterday for the Appeal Court Judge, Justice Maraga.
Okay. Of course, those are the headlines according to what my panel would like to see this week. But be sure, we'll be here tomorrow again to tell you the real headlines as they happen. Now, in a short while, we'll be having music from today's band. And as they continue preparing, I'd like to thank my panelists, Deputy Governor for Nairobi, Jonathan Mweke, Brian Weke, CEO, Institute for Education and Democracy, Yusuf Hassan, Member of Parliament for Kamukunji. Thank you so much for helping us look at the headlines this morning, and we hope to see you again next week. Now, remember, the State House Youth Summit is happening today at State House, Nairobi, and we'll be heading to that in a short while. But before that, remember, Power Breakfast is still on. Let's enjoy some music and continue.